It is a great satisfaction to greet you again. I hope you and your pet are well. Today we will talk about the following. At what age do dogs start barking? Barking is, without a doubt, our dog's most characteristic sound. They bark to get our attention, to warn us of potential danger, and even to invite us to a play session. Therefore, it's an excellent communication tool. But dogs aren't born knowing how to bark. It's a skill that will manifest as part of the puppy's development. The importance of barking. Barking is an important form of communication for dogs. Therefore, the first thing to keep in mind is that a dog isn't going to bark to annoy us. In its own way, it's trying to tell us something, and our job is to figure out what it is. This task isn't always easy, as barking can have multiple meanings depending on the context. Although some people still think that barking is always a sign of threat or aggression, this is a big mistake. A dog can bark with different intensity, pitch, and volume to express joy, nervousness, alertness, fear, desire to play, etc. It also serves to communicate with us and with other dogs. Therefore, it makes no sense to scold a dog for barking. Even in cases where barking may be excessive, it indicates a problem that we will also need to resolve. An activity as important as barking logically dates back to puppyhood. The age of barking. Puppies are born very vulnerable and completely dependent on their mother. She cares for them, feeds them, and keeps them warm, as in the first few weeks they are unable to regulate their body temperature. For the first 15 to 20 days of life, puppies will do little more than eat and sleep, like babies. From the moment they begin to move, around this age, they also begin to interact with their surroundings and emit certain sounds that remind us of a bark, although much softer and higher pitched. But it won't be until a few weeks later, around a month and a half, that we can talk about their first barks properly speaking. In any case, some puppies will be more precocious, while others will take longer to make the decision. Both situations are normal. Development isn't an exact science. Like adult dogs, they can bark for different reasons, which we can interpret depending on the context. My puppy won't stop barking. People who adopt a puppy often quickly notice how early they start barking. It's not unusual for the puppy to bark and cry, especially during the first few days of adapting to its new home. Sometimes we are the ones who unintentionally intensify these barks because we pet it, reinforcing the behavior. It's also not worth scolding them, as this could be counterproductive. The idea is to reward him with edible treats, petting, or warm words of praise when he's calm or obeys us, and ignore the behavior we don't want him to repeat. This way, he'll learn which behaviors are beneficial. But be careful, because not reinforcing barking doesn't mean we have to ignore the barking puppy. It's important to always look for the cause and try to resolve it, as he could be demanding our attention for a variety of reasons, such as hunger or some other basic need. Why isn't my adopted adult dog barking? Although newly adopted puppies tend to be vocally expressive, when we adopt an adult dog, the opposite is common. Due to age, he may bark, but he needs a period of adaptation to get the courage to do so, especially if he's had bad experiences or suffered abuse during his previous life. You simply have to respect him, meet his needs, and wait for him to gain confidence. This can take months, and even, in the most serious cases, years. Of course, if, in addition to not barking, the dog displays excessive fear, phobias, anxiety, etc., you should consult a canine behavior expert. Dogs that don't bark. First of all, before a month and a half old, the dog doesn't necessarily bark. After that date, having the ability to do so doesn't mean the dog will bark or will do so whenever we feel like it. Barking more or less depends not only on the circumstances, but also on the temperament of each dog or even its breed. For example, a dog that lives with others is more likely to bark, even if it's just due to interaction with other dogs. On the other hand, a dog that lives alone and quietly in an apartment, with its needs met, won't have as many reasons to bark. On the other hand, some breeds are more prone to barking, while others are almost completely silent. In any case, it doesn't represent a pathology. A different situation is if our dog doesn't bark as usual. A strange barking tone could indicate a health problem, such as laryngitis. This would be an example in which a veterinarian should be consulted for diagnosis and treatment. It is a pleasure to inform you and help you. If you have not subscribed to the channel, you should do it now. Take care of yourself and your furry friend. A hug, and until the next video.